Welcome everyone to the Manage Engine Patch Tuesday webinar for the month of August 2025. As August arrives with its late summer energy, it's the perfect time to renew our focus on cybersecurity. Just like the monsoon refreshes the land, let's refresh our systems with timely updates, stay alert to shifting threats, and keep defenses strong. This month, let your patching strategy flow steadily because consistent protection keeps our digital world thriving. Before we move on, I just want to double check. Can you hear me clearly and is my presentation visible? If everything's good, just give me a quick thumbs up in the chat so we can keep things rolling. I'm Niveda, product expert at ManageEngine, and I'll be your presenter today. Alongside me, we have our patch pundits ready to engage with you in real time via chat. So please feel free to post your questions throughout the webinar. Kindly note that it will be a 60-minute webinar and it is being recorded. The recorded session will be sent to your registered email IDs in 2 to 3 working days. So what is on today's agenda? First up, we'll start with the latest security news headlines covering key vulnerabilities, active threats, and major cybersecurity developments you need to know. Next, we will have a detailed breakdown of the Windows lifecycle as well as the end-of-life dates for the various Windows versions. We'll then discuss the Patch Tuesday updates for the month of August. After that, we'll demonstrate how you can simplify the patch management process for your network's endpoints using ManageEngine's patch management solution. We'll also share best practices for patching to help you perform effective patch management for your hybrid networks. And last but not least, we'll wrap up with a Q&A session to address all your queries. Let us take a look at the latest security news now. WinRAR, one of the most widely used file archiving tools in the world, is now at the center of a serious cybersecurity incident. A newly discovered zero-day vulnerability, tracked as CVE 20258088, is being actively exploited in real-world attacks. This is not a proof of concept or a harmless test in a security lab. It is happening right now. The flaw is a directory traversal issue that allows attackers to place malicious files directly into the Windows startup folders. Once that happens, the next time the computer restarts, the malware launches automatically alongside the operating system without the user doing a thing. The group behind these attacks is Romcom, also known as Storm 0978 or Tropical Scorpius. They have a long track record of running cyber espionage campaigns. In this attack, their method is simple but highly effective. First, they send targeted phishing emails to selected victims. These emails contain malicious RAR archives. When someone opens the file with a vulnerable version of WinRAR, the malicious payload is not just extracted to the usual location, it is silently placed inside the Windows startup folder. The moment the victim reboots the machine, the malware springs to life, giving the attackers control and persistence on the system. What seemed like an innocent compressed file has now become a stealthy and ongoing compromise. The danger here is amplified by how common WinRAR is and the fact that it does not update automatically. Many users and organizations are still running older, vulnerable versions without realizing the risk. Combine that with targeted spear phishing, and the opportunity for attackers is wide open. A single user clicking on a malicious RAR file is all it takes to compromise a machine. The good news is that a fix is already available. The vulnerability has been patched in WinRAR version 7.13. But here is the catch. There's no auto update. You have to manually download and install the latest version from WinRAR's official website. If WinRAR is used in your environment, this update needs to happen now. Do not wait for a scheduled maintenance window. Along with patching, make sure to train users to treat RAR attachments with extreme caution, even if they appear to come from trusted sources. Strengthen your email filtering rules so that suspicious compress files are flagged or blocked, and run an audit to find and update any outdated installations. If you are using Endpoint Central, Patch Manager Plus, or Vulnerability Manager Plus, you can deploy the fix using patch ID 350239, which corresponds to Bulletin IDTU 038 for WinRAR version 7.13, the 64-bit build. Automated deployment through Endpoint Central is the quickest way to close this security gap and reduce your risk exposure. This is an active, live threat. Every day without patching is another day where attackers have a chance to compromise your systems. Romcom is already exploiting this vulnerability in the wild, and they are not going to stop until the window of opportunity is closed. Updating now is the only way to lock that window shut. Moving on to our next security news, a serious vulnerability has been found in Cursor, the AI-powered code editor that allows attackers to turn the IDE's helpful agents into a direct execution path on developers' machines. The flaw, tracked as CV2025-54135 and dubbed Cuxecute by the researchers, can be abused via prompt injection to write attacker-controlled configuration to a project's MCP file and cause remote commands to run with the developer's privileges. Once exploited, the consequences can be severe. The malicious configuration can persist across reboots, allowing attackers to maintain long-term access, steal proprietary source code, credentials, and API keys, inject or alter code in active repositories to insert backdoors or bugs, deploy ransomware to encrypt local and network files, compromise the wider software supply chain by poisoning shared libraries or CI/CD pipelines, and even subtly manipulate AI-generated code to introduce exploitable weaknesses without the developer noticing. The good news is that Cursor has already released a fix. The vulnerability is patched in Cursor version 1.4, which is now available for download. If Cursor is in use in your development environment, apply this update immediately. If you are using our products, you can immediately deploy the fix using patch ID 3449, which corresponds to Bulletin ID TU18882 for Cursor version 1.4.2, the 64-bit build. Managing patches for Cursor is just as vital as keeping your OS and browsers up to date and should be treated as a key part of your secure development lifecycle. Having seen this, take a moment to quickly answer our poll based on this news. I shall pause for a few seconds. One AI story down, another to go. Let's move to the another recent incident where artificial intelligence continues to drive the conversation in today's security news. Google's brand new Gemini CLI, an AI coding assistant you run from the terminal, is at the center of a serious flaw that allowed stealthy code execution and data theft on developers' machines. And yes, this happened in the wild enough to warrant a rapid fix. Tracebit discovered that days after Gemini CLI launched, a flaw combining prompt injection and an overly broad allowed commands list let attackers embed malicious instructions in repo files. The AI could then run these allow listed commands without friction, quietly exfiltrating API keys, tokens, and environment variables. Because it blended into normal workflows, this exposed developers to silent data theft of credentials and secrets, remote command execution disguised as legitimate tasks, supply chain compromise as poisoned repos could propagate the exploit, loss of developer trust in AI-assisted tooling, potential lateral movement if stolen credentials unlocked other systems. By targeting the very repos developers asked it to review, the flaw turned a helpful assistant into an uninvited, privileged operator. These two incidents are stark reminders that even AI isn't immune to vulnerabilities, and when that intelligence has a command line, its mistakes can be just as dangerous as ours. It's a wake-up call that trust in AI should always be paired with healthy skepticism and constant oversight. Moving to the last security news, Trend Micro's flagship endpoint platform is in the crosshairs of an active zero-day campaign. The company has confirmed that attackers are exploiting a critical command injection flaw in the Apex One on-premises management console to run arbitrary code without authentication. This isn't a lab demo. Exploitation attempts are happening now. The vulnerabilities, tracked as CVE 2025 54948 and CVE 2025 54987, let a remote unauthenticated adversary execute commands on unpatched management servers. That turns the very system meant to protect endpoints into a beachhead for lateral movement and complete environment takeover. Trend Micro says it has seen at least one in the wild attempt and has released a short-term mitigation tool. There's a trade-off. Applying the tool disables the remote install agent function from the console, so plan alternate agent deployment methods until a full patch lands. A critical patch is slated for mid-August 2025, which will also restore that functionality. Who's at risk? Apex One on-prem management server version 14049 and below. SaaS backend components for Apex One as a service and Trend Vision One. Endpoint security were mitigated out of band on July 31st, 2025. If your management console is exposed to the internet, you're in the danger zone. Lock it down immediately. So what to do now? Let us see the best workarounds. Apply Trend Micro's fix tool _August 2025 mitigation to affected on-prem consoles. Verify the updated build of August 6th, 2025 if the original failed in non-standard configs. Restrict access to the management console and audit for any public exposure. Prepare contingency for agent deployment, that is UNC path or pre-built packages, while remote install agent is disabled. Monitor for post-exploitation activity from the console host and review credentials, service accounts, and schedule tasks created recently. Plan to deploy the mid-August critical patch the moment it's released. Moving on to the Windows lifecycle, if you're still running Windows 10, here's an important heads up. Its active support will officially end on October 14th, 2025. That means after that date, no more security updates or feature improvements. So if you haven't already, it's definitely time to start planning your upgrade to Windows 11 before support runs out. But don't worry. If you're already using Endpoint Central for patch management, you're in a great position to handle this transition smoothly. Let me walk you through how it can simplify the entire upgrade process for you. Let's jump into the console. On the home page, you'll see Zia's analysis. This feature is super helpful when making the move from Windows 10 to 11. It gives you insights like which Windows 10 devices are reaching end of life and which ones are ready to upgrade to Windows 11. Plus, you'll get other useful info to guide you along the way. For more details on how to get started, check out the links shared by our panelists in the chat. At ManageEngine, we're excited to share that you can easily initiate the feature pack update through Patch Manager Plus. Also, folks, we've put together an easy-to-follow guide on how to upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11 using ManageEngine Endpoint Central. Simply scan the QR code to watch it or check out the link we've shared in the chat. Several software applications are approaching their end of life soon. We've highlighted a few key ones, but it's important to stay informed about all outdated software running on your endpoints. To view the complete list of end-of-life software, along with their expiration dates, Go to Threats and Patches, and Threats, and then High Risk Software. This section provides detailed insights, helping you proactively identify and mitigate potential security risks before they become a threat to your environment. Let's move on to Patch Tuesday update breakdown now. So this time there are 111 vulnerabilities, out of which one is also a zero-day vulnerability. We'll be discussing them in the later slides, but taking a look at the breakdown, we see a total of 130 plus patches released to mitigate the 111 vulnerabilities. Also, if these vulnerabilities are left unpatched in your endpoints, they can cause 6 different kinds of impacts in your systems, which we'll also be discussing in detail in the following slides. So as I said earlier, there is just one zero-day vulnerability released in this month's Patch Tuesday. Let me quickly show you where to find them in the console. Let us navigate to the top menu, click on Threats and Patches. On the left pane, click on Threats and choose Zero-Day Vulnerability. Now let me go ahead and fix this vulnerability in my system. Let us tick off the box and click on Install Patches. It will automatically take you to manual deployment. By applying all the necessary configurations, you can successfully patch this zero-day vulnerability. So let's take a look at what this month's zero-day vulnerability brings to light. Identified as CVE 2025-53779, this critical flaw impacts Windows Kerberos and could allow an authenticated attacker to escalate privileges and eventually gain domain administrator rights. The root cause lies in a relative path traversal issue within Windows Kerberos, which makes privilege elevation possible over a network. For this exploit to succeed, an attacker must have elevated access to certain DMSA attributes, specifically MSDS Group MSA membership, which lets the attacker leverage the DMSA account, and MSDS managed account preceded by link, which, when writable, enables them to designate a user that the DMSA can impersonate. Microsoft advises applying the latest security patches without delay to mitigate this risk. This vulnerability has been assigned a CVSS score of 7.2, reflecting its significant impact if left unaddressed. Now let us move on to the critical vulnerabilities. We have 13 critical vulnerabilities this month out of the 111 total vulnerabilities. We have 98 important vulnerabilities too. So let's talk in detail about the critical vulnerabilities. We have picked the top 7 critical vulnerabilities for you. So let's take a look at what this month's critical vulnerabilities hold for us. First, we have CVE 2025-53778, a privilege escalation vulnerability in Windows NTLM. NTLM, or Windows NT LAN Manager, is an authentication protocol that verifies user and computer identities in Windows networks. This flaw results from improper authentication handling and could allow an authenticated attacker to elevate privileges over the network, ultimately gaining system-level access. Next up is CVE 2025-53784, a critical remote code execution vulnerability in Microsoft Word. The issue is caused by a use after free condition in Word, which an unauthenticated attacker could exploit to execute arbitrary code remotely. Moving forward, we have CVE 2025-49707 and CVE 2025-53781 impacting Azure virtual machines. This vulnerability stems from improper access control and could allow an authenticated attacker to perform spoofing locally within the environment. Coming up next is CVE 2025-48807, a remote code execution flaw in Windows Hyper-V. This issue occurs because the communication channel is not properly restricted to intended endpoints, giving an authenticated attacker an opportunity to execute arbitrary code remotely. Moving on, CVE 2025-50176 targets the DirectX graphics kernel. This type confusion vulnerability could allow an authenticated attacker to execute code locally without requiring administrative or elevated privileges. And finally, we close with CVE 2025-50177, a remote code execution vulnerability in Microsoft Message Queuing or MSM queue. This flaw results from a use after free condition that an unauthenticated attacker could exploit to execute arbitrary code remotely. Successful exploitation requires the attacker to win a race condition during the process. Now, speaking about the patches by impact, as we mentioned earlier, that if these vulnerabilities are left unpatched, they can have 6 different kinds of impacts on your systems. Starting with 44 causing elevation of privilege, 35 causing remote code execution, 18 causing information disclosure, 5 causing denial of service, and 9 causing spoofing. Now let's take a look at the operating systems and the applications that have been affected this month. So as we saw earlier, there were a total of 111 vulnerabilities, out of which 67 have been found in Windows, 19 in Microsoft Office, and 5 in Azure, 5 in SQL Server, 5 in server software, 2 in developer tools, 2 in Microsoft Dynamics, and 1 in open source software.